Get on board the Bernier bus train. Come get on board the Bernier bus train. Once you hear that clickety-clack, there ain't no time for turning back. Go get on board the Bernier bus train.
Good morning, USA, and welcome to another episode of the Bernier Bus Show. We're going to start today debunking some of the words on the street I've been hearing lately, such as that unions are against Medicare for All. That's one of the biggest ones. This story says union leaders rebuke centrist Democrats for claiming Medicare for All would harm workers. Admittedly, we have a few union workers who are in bed with the machine, with the DNC machinery, and a disturbing number, actually, even last time we did. But we've got the nurses union, we've got the flight attendants union. Leaders of some of America's largest labor unions are speaking out against centrist Democratic presidential candidates who, in an effort to undercut Medicare for All, are pitting unionized workers against millions of uninsured Americans. Now just think for a minute, just use logic. What sorts of Democratic presidential hopefuls would try to say to union people and to other people that Medicare for All is not good? We already know, if we're paying attention to the facts, that Medicare for All, even if it raised our taxes, would end up with putting more money in our pockets long term. It would also help our society, sort of like paying school taxes. It would help everyone. It would make our society a better, safer, more humane society. But that's not even if you're just being selfish, you're going to save money under Medicare for All. And that is just the truth. So why would a Democratic presidential candidate try to tell you otherwise? There's only one reason. It's because they're in bed with Big Pharma or in bed with the big insurance companies. There's no other possibility. And so if their handlers and their sponsors and their funders don't want Medicare for All, you're going to see them coming out against it, or waffling like Elizabeth Warren and her daughter and that whole story. So you can look into this yourself. Do not trust this message, but a lot of regular, well-meaning people on the street will just knee-jerk. They've been trained by corporate media to just say, without even thinking, oh, well, then I won't be able to keep my health insurance provider. Former Vice President Joe Biden, Representative Tim Ryan, and former Representative John Delaney have each argued in recent days that Medicare for All would undo the hard-won collective bargaining gains of unions by replacing employer-sponsored health insurance with a single-payer program. And it's just bullcrap. And even Tulsi Gabbard and Elizabeth Warren aren't as solid on single payer. I don't trust either of them on this issue. And this is, to me, this is as close to the center as it gets, because it's economic justice, which would lead to climate justice. It would lead to every other kind of justice. If we look at this DuckDuckGo search, I tried to figure out what the Bernie or Bust show has to say about the union, because I knew I talked about it and I couldn't remember. Excuse me. I couldn't remember how long ago I had talked about it. So I went on this search to see. I typed Bernie or Bust television, because that's the name of this YouTube channel. Flight attendants union Sarah Nelson, because I knew I had talked about her. And at the top of the DuckDuckGo search, you see the episode 46. You go down, it's the third hit on DuckDuckGo. Union members want Medicare for All. And it turns out it was August 17th. So if you have DuckDuckGo instead of Google, you can find out what we said about this. Way back in August, we said that union members, rank and file, and a lot of powerful union leaders do want Medicare for All. And this whole movement from the top to get us to stop wanting it, coming through corporate ads, they put these ads on the second first or second debates, in between Bernie saying that we need Medicare for all, they had these insidiously evil ads with seemingly regular people saying, oh, we don't want Medicare for all. That's a crock of shit, and we have to figure this out. So go back and watch episode 46 of the Bernie or Bust show, and you can see that we were ahead of the game. If you do this search on Google, however, you won't find it. So just saying, you can go right to episode 46, though, if you just go to my Medium page that I've always linked to right under the, or lately anyway, I've linked to right underneath my picture here. Go check out all the episodes if you want, and just click 46. This is what we hear from Bernie Sanders very recently, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, about the essence of his politics and why these messages are really striking at the heart of what Bernie is trying to do.
But the essence of my politics, and I think Alexandria's as well, is that we need an ongoing grassroots movement of millions of people to pressure Congress, to pressure the corporate establishment, so that we can bring about the changes that this country desperately needs. So that's why I have said that I will not only be commander-in-chief, I'm going to be organizer-in-chief. That's exactly what that means.
And this guy wants to talk about anything else, but that's okay, because Bernie got his words in. What we really need is, if we want Medicare for all, if we want any other kind of justice for our planet, for other people in the world, we have to use leverage. And that's what Bernie is saying. That's what Ilhan Omar was saying recently too, is that it's a movement of working class people, and we need to get those people the right message. So if they just knee-jerk every time you say Bernie Sanders and say, oh, socialism, oh, I'm going to lose my health insurance provider, oh, whatever their talking points are, you know they've been brainwashed. You know they've just been drinking the corporate Kool-Aid, and we have to somehow get the word out. So hopefully, that's why I started this channel on YouTube, is I'm trying to get regular people to understand that they've been duped. Now let's move on to what neoliberalism is. This is, again, a long video, and so I'll just show you a snippet and hope to entice you to go watch it, because this is the root of the problem. This is why our system is the way it is right now.
As a columnist of The Guardian, George Monbiot has astutely observed, living in the United States, the United Kingdom, or virtually any other country on Earth without knowing what neoliberalism is akin to living in the Soviet Union without ever having heard of communism. You might still be fuzzy about what exactly neoliberalism is, but you have doubtlessly seen many examples of it in your own lifetime. Do you sometimes wonder why grocery stores often throw away food that could easily be given away to the hungry? Do you ever wonder why spikes on the ground are considered a solution to homelessness? Do you often wonder how it is possible to have incredible displays of wealth and opulence alongside abject and desperate poverty in the same community? And do you ever get the strange feeling that the economy, and by extension our roles as consumers, have been clandestinely placed at the center of our moral and political universes? If you do, then a close analysis of neoliberalism and its history will likely shed some insight into those nagging suspicions. In neoliberal societies, the only remedies to social problems considered politically palatable are the ones that rely on the market to deliver the solution, even if that solution doesn't actually solve the problem. The reason why excess food isn't given to the hungry is because the right of a private company to sell groceries at a profit is elevated higher than a vulnerable human being's need to eat. The reason why we place spikes on the ground to disperse homeless people is because we value the rights of property owners and businesses to be free of uncomfortable eyesores more than we care for the plight of propertyless people. The solution for these vulnerable people, the argument goes, is to simply pull themselves up and engage in the market to get what they need. For the government to step in and provide affordable housing to the homeless, or to give food to the needy, would be unfairly diverting profits from private businesses who only recognize humans as consumers. And the government can't be allowed to help the vulnerable, the argument goes, because to do so would inculcate dependency in the population and lead to greater and greater encroachments of the state. You can probably think of more examples of neoliberal capitalist logic the longer you try. Have you ever wondered why the idea of raising the minimum wage is so controversial? Because wages for workers and laborers are seen as a cost to be minimized. not as an investment in human prosperity or even as a basic requirement of doing business. Why is the idea of taxing the wealthy so controversial? Because neoliberalism asserts that people are wealthy because they simply work harder, work smarter, and are more virtuous. Taxation is seen as stealing from those who have earned and handing out to those who haven't, rather than as leveling a playing field that offers the well-off incredible opportunities to compound their wealth from the beginning of their lives. Why is the government viewed as a perpetual enemy of the market? Because the government's moral contract with its citizens enables it to regulate and restrict the market's ability to trade or speculate recklessly, thereby protecting consumers and limiting the potential profits of businesses. Why is the average American's default mode of transportation a personal vehicle instead of public transportation? Why don't we have universal health care? Or why don't we make internet connectivity a local utility? Why do we allow charter schools and private prisons to exist? Because companies don't want local or federal governments providing cheap, useful services that can be privatized and profited from instead.
That's why higher education sucks. That's why I don't have a job on the western side of Pennsylvania anymore, because they've decided that it's cheaper to have fewer music programs. It's not just music either. It's all the arts, it's all the humanities. We've kind of given up on those ideas because they're not necessarily driving the market. If the market is more important than anything else, then education at all levels is always going to suck, like it does now. And if you're in education, you can see it, but even if you're not, you can see it clearly. Market-driven education is what do you call that? Compressed conflict, an oxymoron. It doesn't work. But that's just one example. It doesn't work in healthcare. It doesn't work for anything. And we've just elevated it. It's become a cult. We've come to worship at the altar of the market. And it has killed our conversations. So this kind of conversation, it's a good conversation, and you might have it with somebody on the street, but you're never going to see anything on the news that would start this conversation. You're never going to see anything on the news that would say, why are we involved in so many wars? It's anathema to the corporate oligarchs. It's anathema to think that we could pull out of these wars, these strategic wars, or that we could elevate human lives over markets, over profits. It's not coming from the news, and it isn't coming from schools much. If I try to start conversations like this at school, I get my ears pinned back. That doesn't mean I don't keep trying, and I hope if you're a teacher, you also will keep trying to get out around this blockade. Because really, that's our only hope. If we don't have an informed citizenry capable of critical thinking, then we don't have anything. We're just going to keep being duped. This is what we have to look forward to if we can't get the word out on the street, especially to blue dog, centrist, suburban Democrats. We have, according to Max here, I keep showing him, this is probably the last day I'll show him for a while, but he's really got a handle on things. He thinks that the likelihood of Donald Trump right now is very high because he doesn't believe that the centrist Democrats can get the word. He's noticing how Hillary Clinton smeared Tulsi Gabbard, and he said that Bernie is next on her list. And the reason they're being smeared, as we talked about yesterday with how the media manufacture consent, thanks to Noam Chomsky and his book, we see what they're trying to do and why. And right now, it's bleak. Max really does paint a picture that shows that with the current machinery in place, it's almost impossible that enough suburban Democrats who want, say, Elizabeth Warren are going to come around in time. He said that people who make $100,000 like Elizabeth Warren far more than they like Bernie, and the people who make $200,000 like her twice as much. And so what we've got is these more opulent suburbanites and urbanites. I don't care where they live, but I care about their education level and their income level. They're the ones who are supporting Elizabeth Warren in the polls. And unless we can head them off, we're stuck with Trump. We're just stuck with Trump. There's no way Elizabeth Warren has any kind of populist grubby populist support. So we're just done if Max is right. Listen to what he says.
And I would say the attack does remind me of Donald Trump's verbal assault on Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. But the difference is, and this is again from purely horse race perspective, not my own principles. Trump was basing that attack on the sentiments of his own reactionary base, his own grassroots base. I don't know who Hillary Clinton thinks she's speaking to here, but it really does speak to her own failure as a candidate and just this loser mentality that still persists in her inner circle. It's the mentality of people who are just out of touch with average Americans, right, who don't care what they think and who've just been kind of on this constant, jet around the world, this State Department jet going from one place to another to prop up a failing empire. It's not really going to work. And so it leads me to believe that Donald Trump, if he gets through this impeachment saga, can get ready for another 4 years in the White House.
That's what's going on. Bernie or bust. The Sanders supporters who will back Trump if their man isn't the Democratic nominee. I just want to add one more coffin nail here after Max. Bernie or bust is their rallying cry, and many supporters of Socialist Senator Bernie Sanders, he's not a socialist. If you're talking to people about socialism, we've got what he is a European-style social democrat. He's a Democrat, but the politics have moved so far to the right due to lesser evilism that people would call him a socialist. And remember, it's sort of like the red baiting we were talking about yesterday. But that's another topic. But you can debunk people that way too. Just say it's an FDR kind of democracy. It's not socialism, it's democracy. It's putting power back in the hands of workers. It's not big government necessarily. It's just giving regular people, regular workers, more power. That's what, if you really looked at socialism, that's what it means. Anyway, an Emerson College poll this month, this is a newer poll, it shows that there are even more Bernie or busters and Bernie or Trumpers than there used to be, which makes sense because the rigging is getting more and more blatant. With Hillary Clinton crawling out of the cracks in the ground, out of the cockroach-infested cracks that she lives in, and smearing Tulsi, and then I'm sure it's coming that she's going to smear Bernie. She'll probably call him a socialist. Before, in 2016, it was about 12% who voted directly for Trump in the general election after Bernie was cheated. But this month, an Emerson poll showed 26% of those who support Sanders in the Democratic primaries and caucuses would support Trump over Elizabeth Warren. 26%. I don't think anybody is paying attention to this. I don't think any of your neighbors, your friends and neighbors know that not only will they not vote for Elizabeth Warren, they'll vote directly for Trump. 26%. That just shows you there is no hope. Max is right. There's no hope that we're going to have anybody but Trump unless the suburban Democrats come around. You're not going to get Republicans to switch parties and vote for Bernie in the primaries. They would vote for him in the general, but he won't get to the general because the DNC is rigging it again, and they're trying to anoint Elizabeth Warren in place of Hillary Clinton. Unless Hillary Clinton actually sneaks in and tries to run. Her husband Bill entered the race in October in the year he won, in one of the times he won, and so the first time. So this is what it is, and we don't trust Elizabeth Warren. She endorsed Hillary. She waited. She didn't endorse Bernie. And it says here, Sanders to Trump inclination stems in part from the belief that the Democratic National Committee cheated Sanders. They put it in quotes. That's so stupid. They did cheat Sanders in the bitter 2016 primary with the superdelegate system and Democratic staff bias in favor of eventual nominee Hillary Clinton. They purged voter rolls. They're not talking about that in this article. it's rigged, and they did cheat Sanders. And so that's why 26% of Sanders supporters are going to vote directly for Trump. It's done. You're not going to wave the flag in front of their faces and get them to come to their senses. It's done. You have Donald Trump, whether you like it or not, you blue dog Democrats. I don't have much hope that you're even listening to this or even going to do anything about it. But if you really don't like Donald Trump, it's the only thing you can do. That's where we are. And it's still not November 2019. We've got time between now and November 2020, but we don't have much time between now and February 2020. And you're going to have to figure this out before then. If you're one of the people trying to talk sense into the vote blue no matter who people, please show them this video. Please show them the links under the video. Show them the excellent commentators like Max and Aaron who know what's going on. Try before February. Do your damnedest to get this word out so that we are not faced with another 4 years of Donald Trump and another 70 years of neoliberalism. Happy Friday. Keep on burning. Hope to see you tomorrow.
Get on board the Bernier bus train. Come get on board the Bernier bus train. Once you hear that clickety-clack, there ain't no time for turning back. Go get on board the Bernier bus